It's been a while since I made a video, as I've been traveling and teaching and working with developers to put my seminars up online, which are now available. So I'm going to have more time to make videos like this one on a regular basis. And I wanted to start by addressing how you can strengthen your immunity to protect yourself against viruses like the flu and others like the coronavirus that are all over the media right now, and other infections. So to begin with, this isn't our first coronavirus, as there has been many, and there's even some talk that this is mutated from SARS. So it's not some mysterious virus or disease that's going to be responsible for the fall of humanity, as the media will have you think. Now, that being said, experts say you should take this very seriously, as there are going to be many cases coming up all over the world, including the US, and at the time of this video, the mortality rate is between 3 and less than 1%, depending on where it's reported. But the rates are believed to be much lower, as many cases are mild and go unreported, and health experts say it's likely lower than 1%. Now, death rates are highest amongst the elderly, with much lower rates for younger people. And from what I could find in my research, many of the people who died had some sort of chronic lung disease, as this is a virus that attacks the respiratory system. But even with that, those over 80 who get this, over 90% are expected to survive. And so far, corona, even at the highest estimates, has far lower death rates than Ebola, SARS, and MERS. But with all that said, the US has a very different situation than Europe and Asia, as many people here are obese. Almost half our adult population, so we have much different risk factors, which could prove to be significant here, because being obese lowers your immunity, but it also comes with other factors like leaky gut, diabetes, and inability to absorb the nutrients from your food, and many other things that also lower your immunity. All these make it very difficult for your body to fight off infections like this. But if we follow the trend by the numbers, that means over 98 or 99% of people who get this will recover normally, as they do from a cold or a flu. Just as at least over 70,000 people at the time this video was shot already have, and growing. In fact, many of the symptoms of the coronavirus are very similar to that of a mild flu. And this is the big problem here, because many people could have it and not realizing they're passing it along, just like the flu. There are many other similarities to the flu as well, in that it's a respiratory infection that is contagious and possibly deadly. And I think it's important to take precautions, as we'll talk about, but the media is in a full frenzy over this, putting people into a panic as if we're all going to die from this. Now, what bothers me the most about this is I have seen very little on how to prevent this and how to protect your immunity, other than washing your hands a lot and sitting at home and panicking. Now, there are significant differences from this, obviously, from the flu, but for one, there's no vaccine for it. And that's considered a big problem, and the reason there isn't one is because a coronavirus mutates just like the flu does. Meaning, if you make a vaccine for some coronavirus, the next mutation of it, that vaccine won't work for, which is why the flu vaccine has been criticized as being useless, because it's based on previous mutations, which won't help you for this current year's mutation. So in a way, we don't have a flu vaccine for the next strain either. In fact, there are studies that found that those who get the flu shot are more susceptible to similar non-flu-like viruses, including the coronavirus. This is one of the many reasons why I focus on strengthening my immunity rather than worrying about a vaccine. And just to touch on some of the many differences between this and the flu, for one, the symptoms are very mild as mentioned, and it seems to be easily transferred to other people. Is that a reason to panic? No. But at the time of shooting this video, there's been over 5,000 deaths from this, so it's definitely something to be aware of and take precautions for. Especially if you have some sort of chronic lung disease like COPD, asthma, or even pneumonia, or if you smoke or vape, or if your immunity is somehow compromised. Now, on the other hand, what may be appropriate to panic about is heart disease, which according to the CDC kills someone every 37 seconds. They say 647,000 Americans die each year from this, and more than 18 million people from 20 and up have coronary artery disease and rising. So maybe not panic, but a strong concern for is something that we should all focus on so that we could reduce those numbers. Another thing to have a strong concern for is diabetes. which killed 1.6 million people in 2016, according to the World Health Organization, and 422 million people have this. Another thing is processed foods, which causes our brains to actually grow smaller, which is a huge problem for children. And other things like depression, all of which can be seriously improved with better dietary choices. And all of these conditions lower your immunity, making it more difficult to fight viruses like this. But to get back to why we're here, what can we do about all this? Now, to start, I have to say I'm not a doctor or an epidemiologist, and this is not medical advice, just my opinion for educational purposes, as I like to pass on knowledge that I've learned in a 25-year-plus study of traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, and other healing techniques. So check with your doctor before you do anything, especially if you have a pre-existing condition, are on medication, or are pregnant. And nothing said is meant to treat or cure this virus. It's just based on my opinion and research. Now, other viruses like the flu live on cellular glucose, which is basically sugar that's in our body used for energy. But when you increase glucose, you increase your possibility of getting infections from viruses like the flu and other viruses, as these viruses thrive in a sugar-filled environment. So it's always a good idea for your health to eliminate as much sugar as possible. And that includes pastas, bread, cereal, sugary drinks, including juices, and processed foods, as they're full of sugar. Now, fasting is a way to burn off glucose as you'll use it for energy, but fasting is also a way to put your body into autophagy, which not only recycles damaged proteins, but it will also clean up microbes, bacteria, fungus, parasites, and viruses, and prolonged fasting will strengthen your immune system. So if you've never done this before and you'd like to try it, you could start out with something simple like intermittent fasting, where you just eat in an 8 or 9 hour window and fast for 15 or 16 hours, and you could do that every other day and monitor how you feel. But it's very important to know that when your immunity is healthy and strong, it's very well equipped for handling viruses like this, just the same as it is for bacterial. But you need to have a functioning, intact microbiome. If you have something like leaky gut, as many people in the US do, then your immune system is so immersed in dealing with that it leaves very little for fighting off infections in your lungs, your nose, and your mouth. Now, based on what I know about this, I'm not at all worried about getting this or any other infectious diseases because I have a perfectly healthy immunity and gut microbiome, but I also have an arsenal of herbs, essential oils, and vitamins to throw at anything that comes my way, and I haven't been sick in years despite being around many people who are, and I'm the person that was sick at least 10 times a year when I was younger. And I don't say this to be arrogant, but to let you know that if you're in a panic, to remember this feeling and get your health on track so you don't have to panic or worry about the next infectious virus or bacteria or anything else like this that comes up, as it definitely will. Now, the best way to get your immunity and your gut microbiome in order is with green vegetables, fiber, eating fermented foods, and I have a number of videos on how to make those. And the simplest is lacto-fermented sauerkraut, which is one of the best food sources of vitamin C. So if you don't want to make those, then you could get probiotics and get a good couple of brands and switch those off every month so you don't get an overabundance of just a few strains. Now, the worst thing that you can do for your immunity is eating processed foods or high sugar content foods, because that not only suppresses your immunity, but it causes leaky gut and many other problems. And that includes anything that comes in a box or a bag or doesn't occur in nature. Now, the number one way to support your immunity against viral infections like this is to have an adequate amount of vitamin D. And the best way to get that is from the sun. And that's done best with about 30 minutes of skin exposure on both the front and the back, with as much skin showing as possible between the hours of 11 and 1. But unfortunately for most of us, that's not possible. So what I take is a liposomal vitamin D spray that offers about 5,000 or 6,000 international units a day, which is what's typically recommended daily. Now, if I were to feel something coming on, like a cold or a fever, flu, something like that, I would increase the dose by 10 times that amount. And I know many functional medicine doctors and health practitioners that take as much as 150,000 a day, and if they feel like they're getting sick or anything like that. And I've even heard functional medicine doctors like Dr. Gundry and Dr. Hyman say that they take 150,000 international units of vitamin D for 3 days to wipe out a cold or a flu. And they both say they've never seen or heard of a case of vitamin D toxicity either. But as mentioned, being in the sun is the best way to get this, and one of the best things you can do for your overall health as well as your immunity. Now, the next very important nutrient is vitamin C. Now, it's believed that IV vitamin C is the best way to fight off a viral infection, but since that's very difficult to get, the next best thing is liposomal vitamin C, as it's best absorbed. But all vitamin C is out of your body within a couple hours, and many functional medicine doctors that I like Dr. Gundry as an example, says that he likes to take the 500 milligram tablets every 4 hours until he has a cold or something like that wiped out. But just so you know, I don't like the packets, so I would avoid those because the number one ingredient in them is often sugar, which is exactly what we're trying to avoid. So just read the ingredients on that and make sure that that's not in there. Another functional medicine doctor that I like, Dr. Brownstein, says that most people have suboptimal vitamin A and C levels, and that both of these nutrients have antiviral abilities and are able to support the immune system when it's under viral attack. He suggests taking 3,000 to 5,000 milligrams a day of vitamin C. And at the first sign of any illness, to take 1,000 milligrams an hour until diarrhea develops, which means you're no longer absorbing it and you could back off for a few hours. And as far as vitamin A, he suggests taking 5,000 units a day if you're not sick and 100,000 units a day for 4 days at the first sign of any illness. And pregnant women cannot take these doses. Dr. Brownstein is a big proponent of iodine, as he wrote a book on it. And according to him, there is no bacteria, viruses, parasite, or fungus that is known to resist iodine. He says iodine levels have fallen nearly 60% over the last 40 years. And he suggests taking 25 milligrams as a daily dose and more, sometimes 50 or 100 milligrams a day at the first sign of any illness. Now, I take about 4 to 6 drops of Lugos 5% daily. And I would suggest, though, if you are going to do this, to start off very small with maybe 1 drop and see how you feel, because it's a very powerful detox and it could put you into a healing crisis, which could be like flu-like symptoms. And a good food source of this is seaweed. And it's also important to know that many people are not getting this from iodized salt where they think they are, because it is a very cheap form used in table salt and it evaporates quickly. And table salt is terrible for you anyway. Now, the next thing that can be very helpful for you is glutathione. Now, this is a critical step in your detoxification system, as it binds to toxins in your body and puts them in your bladder and your intestines and gets them out of your body. It also profoundly supports your immune system. When glutathione level dips, white blood cells are impaired and viral infections can reproduce. And rapid decreases in glutathione levels have been seen after infections from viruses. Now, oral glutathione is not reliable as a supplement because it's degraded by your stomach acids. But liposomal glutathione has been shown to increase glutathione in the body, so I like that one. And I'll have affiliate links in the info box below as well as in the blog for everything that I mentioned. Now, other supplements to help support your immunity is zinc, and herbal supplements that are very helpful to support immunity and fight off viral infections are cat's claw, echinacea, ginger, and even onion and garlic. Now, essential oils to help fight viruses are eucalyptus, melaleuca, which is also known as tea tree, and peppermint. And if I happen to get the coronavirus, I'll be taking all of those and more. And mushrooms that I like to support immunity are maitake, shiitake, and reishi. And I also have a video on how to make a great herbal antibiotic to support immunity and also avoid getting sick. And drink at least 6 glasses of water a day. Now, this is done to help you with elimination, but also it helps your body to move the fighter cells to where the infection is. If you're dehydrated, your body won't be able to move cells around to get it to fight those infections. And know that coffee and tea are both diuretics, meaning they actually dehydrate you. And that includes herbal tea as well. So for every cup of tea or coffee that you drink, you have to drink another cup of pure water. And also know that if you have healthy stomach acids like hydrochloric acid that's normal in your stomach, this will immediately kill off any pathogens that come into there. So if you have reflux or what's labeled as low stomach acid, then you can see my blog about what to do about that so that you can incorporate this into fighting off pathogens. Heat is also beneficial in destroying this, such as infrared saunas, but if you feel dizzy or sick, then get out immediately. And remember to check with your doctor before doing or taking anything, especially if you have a pre-existing condition are on medication, or are pregnant. And know that your stress level powerfully impacts your immunity. So if you're in panic mode watching the media about this, or are stressed out for some reason, that seriously lowers your ability to fight off infections like this. So a regular practice of gratitude can help to fight this, as well as deep breathing exercises, as they can help to reset your fight or flight response and strengthen your immune system. Whereas shallow breathing has been shown to increase cortisol, and cortisol creates an acidic environment where pathogens like this can thrive. Now, another thing that you can do is meditation. And this is important because it's been shown to lower cortisol, and I have many videos on meditation and deep breathing for you to see. Now, it's also important to know that antibiotics don't do anything against viruses like this, and neither do surgical masks. And even the Surgeon General has asked people to stop buying these masks. Viruses can go right through these, but even if they didn't, the mask would have to be sealed to your face, and you'd also have to have sealed goggles because the coronavirus can infect you through your eyes as well. Now, it's also important to stop touching your face, as that's the #1 way people get sick. And to give you an example of how often we do this, in an observational study, it was found that people touch their face 23 times an hour. So to avoid problems here, many people are making hand sanitizers. And in the next video, I'm going to talk about the problems with the homemade hand sanitizers people are making, and what I do instead not to disrupt the microbiome in my skin, which is your first line of defense. And I never use commercial hand sanitizers because they have many toxic ingredients in them, and they disrupt your gut microbiome, because anything that you put on your skin gets directly into your bloodstream within 20 seconds of using it, and all of these toxic ingredients also damage your organs. Now, as far as cleaning products, I'm all about natural cleaning products, but vinegar probably is not going to kill this. It's more like things that you need are alcohol and bleach, but there are some essential oil-based cleaners that can help to kill viruses. And the CDC says that common hydrogen peroxide, which is 3%, is effective in deactivating rhinovirus, which is the virus that causes the common cold, within 6 to 8 minutes of exposure. Rhinovirus is more difficult to destroy than coronaviruses, so it should work, but it's not proven. Now, it's a good idea to clean everything that you touch, especially in the office, like doorknobs, handrails, cabinets, bathroom faucets, light switches, and touch screens. And I would also diffuse an essential oil like melaleuca or tea tree or peppermint. And I like a blend from doTERRA called On Guard. And I will have a link for a list of commercial cleaners that the EPA says will kill the coronavirus in the info box below and in the blog. As far as traveling, as far as experts know, the virus doesn't stay airborne as it's conducted through surfaces. And I've read that the World Health Organization doesn't consider airline cabins any more conducive to spreading the coronavirus. And airlines are taking precautions to prevent the spread of the virus, as there are many workers that have to be on them daily anyway. I also have a whole video on how to protect yourself in an airport as well as on an airplane that you can see. And I would use a safe spray sanitizer that I put in a bottle that I'll show you how to make in the next video on the tray and the touchscreen if you're going to use those. So the low travel prices could be an opportunity for you, but I would definitely avoid it if I had some sort of chronic respiratory infection or my immunity was lowered for some reason. And that also includes avoiding people that have been in these high-risk places for at least 2 weeks if you have any of those conditions. Now, if you want to stock up on foods, it doesn't just have to be canned foods. I like buying beans in bulk as well as frozen vegetables, as they're just as good as fresh vegetables. And it's great that people are putting a priority behind this and canceling events if they're sick and not going into high-risk places. But I hope that it gets people thinking more about their health and their gut microbiome and their immunity, so that they don't have to worry about things like this in the future and actually start focusing on pandemics that are really serious, like chronic heart disease and diabetes and depression, especially for our children and our veterans, as well as so much consumption of highly processed foods and living an unhealthy lifestyle. Swapping healthy organic food for processed food has been shown in studies to reduce violence in teens, seriously reduce suicide, which is the second leading cause in death in young people 10 years old and up. So at the very least, you can say that the food many people are feeding their children are slowing them down physically and mentally, and in many cases, much worse. And maybe that's not the people watching this video, but it might be a good idea to share this with somebody who has kids or who has a compromised immunity. So what's the solution? To be aware of your dietary choices, as they play a major role of all of the issues mentioned, including immunity, and eating healthy may help to reverse and prevent many of them and protect you from infection. Start by buying organic and stop buying processed or sugary foods and other things that you know aren't going to support your health. So I hope you found this helpful, and in the link below you can learn more about my seminars that can help you with your spiritual health, your physical health, and your mental health. And in the next video, I'm going to show you the unfortunate truth about hand sanitizers, especially the ones many people are making now at home, and what I do instead. So for more videos on health and wellness related to mind, body, and spirit, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Good luck with this.